Hey there guys, it's Tom here on behalf of Indie Structural Productions once again, and we're back with another What Do You Want to Know About Guitar Building video. Now, this time we have a question from, I'm probably going to pronounce this incorrectly, Julio Carreño. Correct me if I'm wrong. Probably got that wrong. Anyway, he's saying, hey man, what about a series about not common wood, exotic wood, resonant qualities, and things like that? There are countries where it is difficult to get wood used on guitar building, and I believe that the subject is not well covered out there. Something like the pine guitar build, but more extended with different kinds of wood. By the way, great content on your channel. Keep it going. Cheers. First of all, thank you very much for liking the content and watching the videos. That is a very good question. That is also, I had to raise that up a bit. That's a very good question, and that is something that isn't covered all that well. You're right. And yes, I know let me correct myself already on this. There's a lot of people talking about this stuff, and I'm gonna avoid using
tone wood
as an expression here, but mostly what you're used to always seeing is you're seeing mahogany bodies, maple necks, maple tops, or alder or stuff like that. And frankly, especially with the pine guitar, that's a sort of extreme of what I like to do. I like to use, first of all, domestic woods, but more I want to kind of use different types of wood that you're used to seeing. For instance, with the first two prototypes, I used birch bodies and oak tops, and they sound amazing. Gaia is a full-on birch body guitar, and it sounds great too. There's the pine guitar. Then, yes, I know I am using, in the first line of production models, I do have ash bodies and black alder bodies, but that's just more due to what I had at hand and just wanting to kind of like start from somewhere. But on the flip side of that, I am using walnut necks, which, yes, some people do use quite a bit, but you don't see it. It's not that common in comparison. When it comes to resonance, it boils down to a couple of different ingredients. Of course, your electronics hardware, your nut, your bridge, everything does affect the tone of the guitar. But at the very core of it, when you have a guitar that's made out of a more dense wood, then theoretically the sound is a lot brighter, whereas something that is fairly lightweight and not as dense, for instance pine, you get a much more full and much more warm sounding guitar, just due to the fact of how the wood resonates. Now, talking about resonance, for example, I have a few necks here that I can actually show you kind of what I mean by that. For instance, there are differences here because I don't have that many guitars that are at the same stage in progress right now. But for instance, this is a maple and walnut neck, and a good way to test the sort of tone that you hear out of wood is to do a tap tone test. So I think you can hear this when I go. Now you hear that sound is it hits a sort of note. It is very bright in sounding. Now this is a Wenge and walnut neck with an ebony fretboard attached. And technically that should, yeah. So there you already hear that there is a difference between the two. I don't know how well the mic picks that up, but granted, there's a truss rod in this. It does affect things a little bit, but if you compare just this to, for instance, a full walnut neck with an ebony fretboard and a truss rod, it's a little different. Now, speaking of truss rod, there's a Sapele and maple neck with an ebony fretboard and a truss rod inside, of course. There are slight differences to that, and for instance, if I were to play the pine guitar and the Daedalus prototype, they're built pretty much the same way, except the pine guitar is made out of pine and the other one is made out of oak and birch, so they will resonate differently because they're made out of two different kinds of woods. I'm going to give a little demonstration of that right now. Now, looking at the differences in tone acoustically between two guitars that I built the same way. These are now the prototype Daedalus and the Pine guitar. They're both the same dimension, same scale length, same frets, and so on. But the woods are completely different. The Pine is just pine body, pine fretboard, pine neck. Then the Daedalus prototype is a birch body, oak top, oak fretboard, myrbow, and mahogany neck. Now I could play these through an amp or a plug-in on the computer or something like that and really look into it, but the electronics are different. The wiring is the same, but they have different pickups, so they're guaranteed to sound a little different. And of course, for these as well, any open strings will sound different as well because the nuts are different. The Daedalus prototype has a brass nut, and this one, the Pine guitar, has a plastic nut. The bridges are roughly the same, bought from the same place, should be made from generally the same material. So I guess without further ado, here is a G chord on the Daedalus prototype. And now the same on the Pine guitar, which is a hell of a lot lighter. Now, already just from playing them acoustically, you can hear a difference. Well, the strings are about the same, so they're not like playing new strings up against old strings, but you can hear that the prototype Daedalus definitely sounds a lot brighter, or somewhat brighter, and the Pine guitar itself sounds a bit warmer in comparison. And that is completely due to the resonance of the woods and how much the wood vibrates when you're playing the strings. So in theory, the Pine guitar, due to it being pine and very porous material, very lightweight, and generally not that dense of a wood, it should vibrate a hell of a lot more and carry resonance pretty well, which is why a lot of acoustics use spruce or pine on the tops, because it resonates pretty well. Meanwhile, the denser woods of the prototype should make the guitar sound brighter. And yes, I should say as well, the construction method is the same on both. So they're both set necked. So they're both set neck instruments. And as you might have guessed by seeing that nothing changed here, I filmed that after the fact. But yeah, that's just to give you a couple of ideas on the sort of difference between the resonance qualities of different types of wood. Now, I am a very strong believer in the fact that use what you have at hand. If you're starting off guitar building, or if you're interested in guitar building, you don't need to go and look for flame maple tops, mahogany bodies, and stuff like that. Go to your local timber store, have a look around at what they have. You can do tap tests and stuff like that if they're smaller pieces. Of course, huge chunks, you can't really do that, and it's probably going to be a little wet, so it's not going to be the same thing. Nonetheless, you can do your research, figure out what types of woods they are, the densities of them, and how they work. Generally, for fretboards, you want something that is very durable. That's why rosewood and ebony and wenge and stuff like that are used very often, because they do take wear and tear very well. They're very hard woods and won't wear down that easy. Whereas using a pine fretboard, probably not the best idea. I did it for the Pine guitar because that was a challenge. Or using a soft material for your fretboard, if it's not treated in any way, it's just not going to really work all that well. It'll start wearing down and the frets might pop out if they're not set in properly. Whereas for the neck, depending on the way that you're constructing things, of course, doing a multi-laminate neck, you will already kind of start taking away some of those faults that you might have with just doing a one-piece neck if it's not quarter sawn. A non-quarter sawn one-piece neck will start bending, or it might start bending, depending on, once again, how the wood is treated and how it has been dried. I should do a more in-depth discussion about each and every part and what to do, but mostly I guess you can go with the sort of mentality of, hell, you can build your body of your guitar out of anything. That's all well and true. The neck really depends on how you're constructing it and the different woods that you're using, if you're using different woods, for instance, for a multi-laminate neck, because they might shrink and move differently. But there's ways that you can go around that. For instance, with the way that I build my necks, the grain pattern changes accordingly with all the multi-laminate, with all the different laminated pieces, so that they're basically moving up against one another and they kind of cancel each other out. Whereas if they would all be going in the same direction, then your neck would start turning probably at some point. And yeah, a bend lengthwise you can fix with a truss rod, that's what it's for, but a twist is something that you won't be getting out that easy. And yeah, you can reinforce it with carbon fiber rods if you want. That is definitely an option too. Yeah, like I was saying, just go check out your local timber stores and what they have in stock. Ask the staff, I'm pretty sure they'd be able to help out somewhat, characterize what kind of woods they have. Like a very good example of it is like if you look at a lot of Australian or New Zealand luthiers, for example, they use domestic woods, and those things are both beautiful and they sound amazing. And yeah, I gotta get me some Australian wood somehow from somewhere. That would be pretty cool. Same way, I'm using what I have it available. Fortunately, I have a good few timber stores here that I can choose from, and they have a good variety of different woods to go for. And I'm kind of gonna go play it by ear and figure things out that way. But yeah, I guess the best thing to do is just do your research. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to make more videos about this, because it is such a huge discussion to kind of break down into such a small video, that I can go on about this for hours and hours on end, but probably best that we separate it into different parts where we're talking about different types of body woods, how they work and how they react, different necks, how to build necks, different construction methods, fretboards, different kinds of fretboards and what they're used for and what's useful, what you shouldn't use, and stuff like that. If you're interested in those types of videos, please do leave a comment down below. I would love to hear that. I would love to hear what you think, and yeah, I think it could be pretty fun. It will be pretty long-winded, as I tend to go off on tangents, like I probably went through here about 15 times or more. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click like, comment down below, and subscribe to see more. Of course, smash that bell button. It helps out a hell of a lot. And yeah, see you guys next week.